Hi everyone, AI4QT. Well, I just arrived back from Norway and it was a trip of a lifetime, really. It was an unexpected trip to say the least because we saw that it was a pretty good deal a month or so ago, so we jumped on it. And so Saturday on March the 18th, we flew from Huntsville to Atlanta to Amsterdam to Oslo. And the first day arriving in Oslo, we couldn't check into the hotel in Oslo because it was so early. In fact, we were the first two to arrive on our motor coach trip. And so we had an opportunity to explore a little bit of the city of Oslo. We went to Edvard Munch's grave, who, of course, is a famous artist that painted the Scream. And after that, we walked down to the harbor in Oslo and climbed literally climbed the opera house in Oslo, which was actually designed so you could climb to the top of the opera house. It's a resemblance of an iceberg, and I think the architect said, well, if we climb mountains, why not climb buildings?
All right, people say climb a mountain. So the folks in Oslo built an opera museum, opera house that you can climb. So the logic is if you can climb a mountain, why not climb a building? And that's what we're going to do. The Oslo Opera House.
In fact, the first day or two, it was actually colder for lows back here in Huntsville, Alabama than it was in Oslo, so go figure. But having said that, when we got into the interior of Norway, the temperatures were obviously wintry. They sure were. So after finding Edvard Munch's grave and climbing to the top of the Oslo Opera House, we, trottled back to the hotel and checked in. And we had a nice evening meal with the other touring parties that would take part on this week-long trip of Oslo. And the three cities that we visited were, of course, Oslo, and I think it was pronounced Gul or Gol, and then on to Flom, where we took a boat ride on the fjord, and that was a beautiful scenic couple of days there in Flom. And the boat ride was spectacular because it reminded me a lot of the fjords of Alaska, but surprisingly, it was actually more beautiful. Waterfalls were abundant, but quite a few were frozen because of the wintry temperatures. And after docking back in the port of Flom, we took a train ride up to the nearby mountain that was spectacular. Of course, it was snowy, but it was beautiful. It's just beautiful. I don't think I have seen as much snow as I had since probably 2014 when I was up in New York during what was that winter storm Pax, again back in 2014. But the railroad was the railway up to the mountain outside of Flom was again very scenic and beautiful. After coming back down the mountain, we had one more night in Flom at a beautiful rustic hotel that is quite old. And the next morning we got back on the bus and traveled to Bergen. And at Bergen, we had a walking tour of the city near the harbor, and many of us were able to go to have some pretty good seafood at the fish market. But I tell you, the oysters that we had were fantastic, but the dinner, not so great. Things tasted a little bit overcooked for seafood. But I'm not disappointed. But you take your chances. Of course, the next time you eat there would be probably no problem. But I did have to wonder, what was wrong with the fish, because it was slightly overcooked. I had crab legs and mussels. The mussels were okay, and shrimp. Oh, I didn't care too. I didn't care too much for the shrimp because they all had eggs on them, so it was kind of like eating shrimp caviar, I suppose. But the fish market was a great tour. It really was. Several things that stand out on the trip were these. Number one, Oslo is quite expensive. Well, all of Norway is quite expensive. Uh, Number two, they're all into the electric vehicles. Teslas were everywhere. They really were. The tour guide said that Elon has an agreement with the Norwegian government where I don't know what it's about that they give a lot of tax credits if you drive an electric vehicle, and Tesla has again some agreement to provide so many Teslas at a particular price. Again, I'm not sure what it is, but there's some type of agreement between Tesla and the Norwegian government. Okay, where am I? Number three, Norwegians are tall. I had no idea they were much taller than the rest of us. I'm 5'11", but man, some of those Norwegian guys are probably and women as well, are probably 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". They're tall, and you don't really notice it till you really look at them because everything is in proportion. So they look, almost the same stature as we do, but they are tall. Let's see what else stands out. Alcohol. I mentioned that food was expensive, but alcohol is expensive. And I don't drink that much, but a couple of beers will set you back nearly $30. Yes, you heard me right. I had a small Pilsner, and my travel companion had a regular sized Pilsner, and the tab came to about $28-29. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they survive, but the way I understand it, everyone has to be paid a living wage. Now, what that is, I don't know, but it has to take care of, expensive beer. The supermarkets, I noticed, I guess this is number 5, I suppose. The supermarkets didn't have a variety of foods like we do here in this country. But, it's plentiful, no problem there. And let's see, what else is outstanding or that stands out about that trip? Well, I cannot think of anything in particular other than those that I just addressed. But, they like their frozen pizza. That's a mainstay for them. Frozen pizza. Any supermarket you go to, there's a variety. You may not have a variety of other foodstuffs, but you have a variety of pizza, frozen pizza. I don't think Norway is known for its culinary taste necessarily, but other than seafood, I don't know what stands out about the food desires of the typical Norwegian. Here's another one that stands out. I guess this would be number 6. You don't see very many stone things made of stone. You do see homes made of timber or wood. And I think that's because, obviously, Norway is abundant with trees of all kinds, or hardwoods of all kinds. So you basically take advantage of what you have. So about the only stone buildings you saw were old churches, but obviously the office buildings and so forth are concrete and things of that nature. Or if they're important buildings, brick but I didn't see very many buildings of marble and granite. Of course, the palace. Oh, that's another topic. Number 7. I don't think people realize that Norway is a kingdom. They have a king and queen. Queen Sonja and King Harold. And what's so surprising is you can actually get real close to the palace. Obviously, you cannot go in unless you have an invitation from the royals family, but you can actually walk, real close within a couple of, maybe 20, 25 yards. Really that close. Of course, there are guards there and so forth, but you can actually get real up close to the building and take it all in. So that was pretty neat. We did go and look at some of the parks in the city that were very nice. But overall, it was a very good trip. Now, one thing that stood out about that trip was the train ride from Bergen to Oslo. And train transportation is not as common here in the States as it is in Europe, because unfortunately Amtrak in this country really doesn't go to places near where I live. The nearest place would be to catch the Amtrak would be Gadsden, Alabama, or Birmingham, Alabama. But rail transportation is pretty accessible throughout Europe. And so, yeah, the train ride from Bergen to Oslo was neat because, you could just relax and move around, go to the dining car and so forth, and take all that snow in at one time. Anyway, that's it for right now. I will wrap this up, and I do plan to do a more detailed video of that Norwegian trip that I just got back from. Anyway, until next time, this is AI4QT 73.